Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news. I hope you're doing very well. What are we talking about on the show this morning? Well, Casemiro refuses to go. Also, a massive Erik ten Hag release clause if Ineos decide to sack him. You've got to factor these things in. It's not as easy as get this guy out of our football club. There is a massive release clause which we'd have to discuss. Also, Rabiot still talking, still dreaming of a move to England. Is it still a possibility? And incredible, I wanted to bring this into the show as well. I was listening to something earlier today. Apparently, this is the worst Manchester United attack in 30 years. Is it that bad? Is it just pure over-exaggeration? Beth sent me an interesting bit of information today that our goal difference over the last 9 months is like +1 or something, whereas Man City and Arsenal are like +80 or something like that. So, you know, are we that bad in front of goal? Well, arguably we are when those stats are there as well. Lots to talk about. Rabiot could go to Villa, says Matt. And Ugarte and Casemiro will start, then bring Mainu in second half, says Wallace. And I have to agree with that, says Abs. Actually, let me just give you the clarity on that because I don't want to be misquoted this early on in the show. So it was... Where was it? It wasn't that group chat. It was this one. Goal difference in the past 57 matches, all competitions. Man City +93, Liverpool +79, Arsenal +78, Man United -1. It's terrible. It is terrible. It is terrible. It's terrible. I mean, I can't say anything about that. But is there reasons for that? I don't think there's ever reasons for not scoring goals, actually. I think you can be crap defensively, but not scoring goals. But then again, somebody will tell me in the chat that we're second in the league for XG this year. So, you know, it's about putting... Gur says that it's shocking. It is shocking. We'll get into that a little bit more in a few minutes because obviously it's a news show this morning. It is shocking. I think there's very big reasons why. I think some of it's individual players who've stopped scoring. And I think some of it is just not, carelessness in the final third. And some of it's the way that we're set up, of course. Let's get into the news, though. So Chris Wheeler in the Daily Mail reporting late last night, I think it was, that Casemiro has got no intention of leaving Manchester United. We're also going to delve into the Ten Hag outers, give them something. Erik ten Hag's release clause if he was sacked. It's not a release clause, it's an exit clause. How much it would cost Manchester United to sack Erik ten Hag in the next 2 months is absolutely eye-watering. Some might say, well, Ineos have backed ten Hag and they've chosen their man, so they won't want to sack him. I do think you need to throw in, being as there's so many people saying, sack him, get him out of our club, this, that and the other, let's just give them a little bit of reality here. It's going to cost a hell of a lot of money to do that, and we'll tell you how much in a moment. But let's talk about Casemiro. So Casemiro doesn't want to leave Manchester United. That's what's coming out from this article. Casemiro is determined to stay at Manchester United and fight for his place, prove people wrong. He doesn't want to go. There are no transfer opportunities out there that take his fancy. Which specifically means he doesn't want to go on loan to Turkey. Because when you look at transfer windows, they're all shut. Obviously, ours shut last Friday. Saudi Arabia's closed on Monday. The only one that's really open at the moment that's got any semblance of being a attractive league where you can earn decent money, because I think the South African league transfer window is still open. I think the Indian league is still open. I think the Malaysian league is still open, and I think the Venezuelan league is probably open, and the Mexican league is open. But no, Casemiro is not going there. Casemiro needs to go somewhere where somebody will pay him a large portion of his 350k a week. So the only league that sort of fits that bill at the moment, because remember, a transfer window means loans as well as permanent deals. So Casemiro's only option is the Australian league is open as well, and I think the Swiss league is open as well. Maybe they'd need to go into them Swiss bank accounts to do a deal there. But effectively, the Turkish league has got 8 more days open. So don't expect the story to subside. I mean, look, there was a lot of Man United players linked to Turkey. Victor Lindelof, Christian Eriksen, Scott McTominay, obviously Antony last night, Casemiro for the last few days. The Turkish league transfer window is still open for another 8 days. So these stories could continue. But my personal feeling is that it's It's Turkish clubs looking to make a big splash like they have been doing for the last few years. I mean, they've always done this. I remember Dean Saunders going there years ago. Graham Souness managing one of the was it Galatasaray he managed. There's always been it's not a new thing, and obviously Wilfried Zaha went there last year as well. Juan Mata went there, didn't he? Fred went there, so it's not out of the realms of possibility that these clubs are speaking to Manchester United about some of our players, but the bottom line is Casemiro doesn't want to go. I suspect, and reading the chat, some people aren't happy about that. But I also agree with what is it Alien or Alan? What Alan says, Casemiro won't go anywhere. And absolutely, he shouldn't go anywhere. We shouldn't allow him to go anywhere. And I actually take this as a good news story this Thursday morning. Thursday already of an international break. Get in. I take that as a positive this Thursday morning that Casemiro doesn't want to leave Manchester United, because my big concern was how unhappy he looked against Liverpool and how unhappy he looked at times last season. And he absolutely has to stay at this football club for this season. He absolutely has to be a contributor to that squad this season. I'm not saying he needs to be a starter, far from it. But we need... Yes, he's massively overpaid and he's playing massively crap at the moment. But the way I look at it anyway is that I want him to stay because that's where we are. A month ago, I would have said something different, but the window is shut. I want him to stay. His wages are incredible, but we can't do anything about that at the moment. So the way I look at it is, Casemiro the footballer, are we better with him or without him? Forget the wage, forget the age, forget the issues. Are we better as a squad with Casemiro, even taking on board his clear inadequacies at the moment and limitations? I think we're better with Casemiro than not. And you know what? I'll be honest. I think we would be better with Thomas Soucek at the moment. I think we would be better with Sean Longstaff at the moment. I'm not saying Casemiro is like the dream. I'm just saying that in relation to our midfield roster, options are important. And yes, Casemiro's terrible at the moment, but I'm actually glad that there is no pushing from his side to go, because we as a football club need him in the situation that we're in. But that's problematic, saying to a player you're not going anywhere if he wants to go. So I actually take it as a positive that he does want to stay. There are problems. There are problems that need solving, and we tried to solve them in the summer. We tried to move him on. And maybe if we'd moved him on, Amrabat would be here or somebody else would be here. But the fact that he doesn't want to go and he wants to fight for his place is probably the best situation in a bad situation, if you know what I mean, because it was horrific on Sunday. But we can't do anything about it. The window is closed. So I actually take this as a good thing that Casemiro wants to stay, because I think there will be a role for him. There's many games to play. Keel says, Casemiro, Maguire, Rashford, Onana, injuries, burnout. Solution to most of our problem is simple. Stop the high press, resort back to counter, says Kyle Robinson. I disagree, Kyle. I think a lot of people will agree with you, but, there's no progress if you go backwards. You're basically saying, let's stop trying to build a team that can compete with Arsenal and Villa and Man City and Liverpool in their high energy footballing style. Let's stop doing it because we haven't got the players to do it. That's the problem. We haven't got the players to do it. We 100% should keep trying to do it, because if we step back, those players that you list there start playing well again and everyone goes, this is the way to go. We could play counter-attacking football, and I'm sure the likes of Casemiro and Harry Maguire and Victor Lindelof would look good again. But that's because that's a system that suits them. We need to build a system that challenges. That's why these players don't work in this system. Do you still believe Ten Hag can turn this around? I genuinely think he can, says Trey. Well, I do, Trey, yeah. I mean, I'm going to get criticised for that, but I do, because I think if you don't, you're a Ten Hag out, aren't you? And I do believe you can turn it around. I don't think it's going to be easy, but I do. Bruno, 2 non-Premier League... Robert McCormack, apologies. Bruno, 2 non-Pen Prem goals in the calendar year. says, well, I'm not surprised, Robert, in relation to what we'll talk about in a few minutes about the lack of goals. Colin Bolger is gifted a membership as well. And Jordan says he will have a year left next year and we'll go next year. Next summer, we will need 2 or 3 centre-backs, a left-back or 2 and another holding midfielder, says Jordan, which feeds in with what Barada said about this summer can't be the only summer where we buy players. I get your point, Mark, says HW, but he's too much of our liability. Rabiot is still a free agent. Get him in now, and then we can sell Casemiro in January. HW, thank you very much for your super chat. We spoke about this morning. I want to talk about this Ten Hag exit clause because a few people are already talking about it, but let me just jump the queue with Rabiot for a moment. So Rabiot, according to Gazzetta Corriere dello Sport, Italian outlet, obviously Rabiot spent the last few years playing in Italy, rejected the opportunity to stay at Juventus, out of contract, free agent. There was a story yesterday saying that Adrian Rabiot still dreams of playing in England. Apparently he doesn't dream about any particular club. He just wants to try it out in the Premier League. There is still no links to Manchester United, and in fairness, The Athletic and Romano have both said that Man United are not interested in Rabiot. So the opportunity of that deal still resides in fans' heads. It's a fan theory. It's not a reality. But I also think that sometimes you've just got to jump in and say it's completely and utterly nonsense. Like, we are in debt. We have took a long time this summer doing deals because we've had to construct them on a, pay in the future style of deal. Euro is massively about paying it off over a number of years. Xerxes certainly is. A Garte deal didn't get done till the end of the window because we were either trying to construct a deal or we were waiting to bring money in from McTominay. So we don't have a lot of money. And I don't agree with any United fan that sits there going, let's just go and get Rabiot. Let's just go and do it. Let's go and give him 250 grand a week. That's what, 12 million pounds in one season in wages. We don't have that money. And if you haven't watched the transfer window, then you haven't watched the transfer window. Like, we've spent money, but we haven't spent it. Why do you think Ugarte didn't happen until the very end when he was a priority? Why do you think De Ligt took like 6 weeks? Why do you think Xerxes took so long? Because we didn't want to pay the release clause. We wanted to give him a little bit more so we could spread that money out. We actually haven't got the money to go and give £12 million in a year to Rabiot. That's one thing. Secondly, if you bring Rabiot in, you're adding £250,000 to your wage bill whilst also giving Casemiro £350k a week. So you're paying £600,000 a week to Rabiot and Casemiro, but Ugarte is going to be the starter. Rabiot makes no sense. Apart from he might be a decent footballer, but financially he makes no sense. We can't afford it. Liam says, having Casemiro in the South African League would bankrupt my country. Don't worry, Liam, it's not going to happen. Keel says, build a high-press team in 2 years when the contracts end. And Abhijit says, why are we neglecting the January transfer window from now? We need to bring a CDM in January and move Casemiro in January. Abhijit, I think over the years we've been more than critical, justifiably, about the Glazers and their ownership of Manchester United, but I don't think we can start criticising the ignorance of the January transfer window when the summer transfer window has only been closed 4 days. It's a little bit early, but I do agree. I mean, I'm very interested to see how this January transfer window pans out because we've ignored it for 2 years, and I always see it as an opportunity. Carzilla says the problem is Casemiro got no composure off the ball when pressure, so it breaks the tactics. Thank you very much for that. And Ten Hag and all his players should just leave our club, says Haj. That's genius. Why did nobody think of that? I mean, realistically, yeah, let's get rid of Ten Hag and about 12 players when we're about nearly £1 billion in debt. I'm sure we'll survive that. And I believe that Casemiro is a professional, says Francine. That means he won't quit just because people are criticising him. I feel as a professional he will try to improve. I hope so. Rabiot's still a free agent for a reason. Keep Casemiro, says Kenzo. Look, for me, Rome's never going to get built in a day. Loaning Casemiro to Turkey and bringing Rabiot in now would be an expensive mistake anyway, but also it would be a short-term desperation fix. I don't think that's what we're about. So Jim Radcliffe has said we're about walking to the right decision rather than running to a bad one. I would rather keep Casemiro in whatever he can offer this season and be looking at the likes of an Edison to bring in January or next summer. That's better for Manchester United in the longer term project, but in the short term, it won't necessarily please everybody. Casemiro's presence around Mainu and Agate is massive. All players burn out, especially if they're overplayed. People want him out because of wages. That's not his fault, says Damon. And Jeremy says, you can't build Rome when we have holes in the wall, thanks to Onana. Okay. Belvinder says, should have loaned him out, then people will see he is not the main problem, says Belvinder. I mean, just before we talk about this Ten Hag exit clause, do we still... I mean, I posed the question to you for once. Well, I do it all the time, but are we still actually, as a fan base, having conversations about people being the main problem? I mean, I pick up on that comment from the live chat because I've never heard somebody say that Casemiro is the main problem. I've never heard somebody say that Marcus Rashford's the main problem. I've never heard somebody say that Onana is the main problem, or Harry Maguire is the main problem, or Scott McTominay is the main problem, or Aaron Wan-Bissaka is, or Luke Shaw's injury record is, or Mason Mount is. I think the fact that I could go on and on and on shows you that there is no main problem at Manchester United. There is a massive amount of problems, of which Casemiro is currently one of them, definitely. But, no, absolutely not. Scott McTominay was a problem at Manchester United. I'm sure at times across this season, people will say we missed Scott McTominay. I find that absolutely incredible. We didn't miss Nicky Butt when he went. We didn't miss Phil Neville when he went, and they offered a hell of a lot more. So we won't miss Scott McTominay, but people will start saying that because it fits whatever agenda conversation they want to have. There is no main problem at Manchester United. There is a catalogue of issues, both on the pitch, behind closed doors, in the fitness department, in the commercial department, throughout the whole football club. Sancho was a problem, but he wasn't the main problem. There's loads of problems. Antony is currently a problem. There are lots of problems at Manchester United, and you cannot pin it on one player. Although, I think there is one player that contributes to something we're going to talk about in a few minutes. Anyway, let's talk about Ten Hag next. Just on Antony as well. I mean, we spoke about... I mean, I don't want to say we're quick, but we're quick. Fabrizio has put an article out this morning saying that Antony and the Turkish rumours are not true. Man United are focused on Antony and Antony's focused on Man United. Obviously, we did a whole show on that at 8 o'clock last night, so I'm not going to repeat it, but it's nice to be right and it's nice to be quick. And shout out to Sam C. He put that out way yesterday afternoon. But, it doesn't need Fabrizio or Sam to confirm that at all. It's absolutely inevitable that we're not and should not be. I mean, I have my opinions on Casemiro, Harry Maguire, Victor Lindelof, Christian Eriksen. I have my opinions on those players and whether they should still be at the football club, but I'm not getting rid of any of them now. If somebody came in from Turkey and said there's £20 million for Harry Maguire, would you take it? I wouldn't. If somebody came in and said there's £15 million for Lindelof, would you take it? No. They're good deals, but not now. We go with what we've got. That's the doors to the, you talk about siege mentality, you talk about castles and Roman walls. For me, that door is closed now. If you're inside, you're inside. You're fighting our battle. We're not opening the doors for anybody else now. You've had your chance. We go. We move. You got to roll with it, says top player. Exactly. This generation is accustomed to immediate success, says the Duke. I wouldn't even call it generation because I think playing the generation game is irritating. I find it irritating as well when you get classed as a certain age or anything like that. You can't play FIFA at your age or you're too young to do this, that and the other. I don't think it's a generational thing. I think it's a society thing. I think that everything is just so quick and reactionary. I do it. You pop on a certain app and it's like, oh, that's 15 seconds. Oh, what's next? What's next? I don't like that. I don't like that. Everything is, this is why long form film is not as popular as, TV series is at the moment, because books are probably not many people are reading books. Everybody wants it quick, fast, and now. And the trouble with that is history will show you throughout Rome wasn't built in a day. That's history. Nothing really happens quickly that's good. That's what she said. But it's not. But that's the society we live in at the moment. Everything has to be quick. Quick. I want this now. He's shit. People actually on Sunday were saying Xerxes a flop after one game. society needs to change in that sense. But at the moment, we're living in that time warp of it's quick, 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 quick. And that's nobody else. That's nobody's fault. I'm a part of that as much as everybody else is. I'm a victim of that as well. We're all just thrown information that's just got to be absorbed quickly. I like this. I don't like that. I do like this. Swipe right, swipe left, swipe up. There is no time. Which is why I spend a lot of time reading, because I think reading is just so therapeutic and it allows your brain to think, and you can read something, you've got to imagine where it is. If I gave you a page out of a book and we all read it, 10 of us, and then we were asked to describe the scenery of that, we would all give it a different scenery because we're all giving our own individual creative thoughts, which is fundamentally, actually, I'm not just waffling here before I talk about this Ten Hag exit clause, this is fundamentally what the United Stand is. Because we've always been a longer form of content, and we've always been about stimulating, hopefully not other areas, but stimulating your brain to think for yourself. Because I can drop something in and you can go off in your own thoughts and go, I don't agree, I do agree, I partially agree, I don't agree at all. And that's really important, I think. So when Duke says it's about immediate success, and you bring it back to Manchester United and the amount of people that want Ten Hag sacked, see what I've done here? There is a reason for those people to be Ten Hag out, but some of them will be because we lost to Liverpool on Sunday. And if we beat Southampton 6-0 next Saturday, those people will be Ten Hag in again. And then if we beat Crystal Palace, we'll be winning the league. And then if we beat Spurs, we will be definitely winning the league. And then if Villa pump us at Villa Park, they'll be Ten Hag out for the next international break. There are people who move like that. There are. There are people, though, who are Ten Hag out for a long time or from Sunday because it's the final straw, etc. But I think that immediate success in football is very, very difficult if your success is winning Premier League titles, because we've got a football club in the Premier League that's won 7 out of the last 8, who has the highest revenue, who has the lowest debt, who has the best squad and has the best manager and has the best structure. And we've got none of those things. So we've got debts, we haven't got the best structure, we haven't got the best squad. So it will take time. So immediate success is impossible if you're comparing it to what Man City and Arsenal are doing. Immediate success in relation to winning the Europa League or the FA Cup again or the Carabao Cup, that can happen. But it just depends. I always think it's important as a fan to establish what should make you happy, what you should be trying to achieve, and what's achievable. And that's good for your own life as well. But I look at this season, I don't want to say 4th place in the Europa League. God, that is so low standards for Man United. But if I don't say that, I'm setting myself up to get frustrated, and that frustration can manifest into get this twat out of my football club, or, sell this player. This season for me, at the end of May, if we win the Europa League and we get 4th place, I have to be happy with that being the achievable limit in this current season. Ultimately, I demand a Premier League, but I can't demand a Premier League at the moment, and I can't demand it next season either. I have to be realistic about how long that will take, because otherwise the frustration of that will overspill into, we're not doing this. Van Persie went to Turkey as well, says Gabriel. Rabiot done that one as well. I don't expect us to look like City, but we don't even look better than Newcastle, and that's acceptable, DK, 100%. And look, we've lost 2 of our first 3 games. God, I'm not trying to say that we're not in a good position, but I'm also I'm just picking up on what Duke said, which is a great point. This immediate success thing is clouded by, what's real and what's not. I don't blame Casemiro and Antony for not leaving. Maguire, Rashford and Mount should leave first, says Rochelle. The criticism foreign players gets terrible. Bias, English, xenophobia is real. No comeback from me on that. Yoro was a good buy, but not a wise buy, says Kyle. And even if we win the Premier League this season, Ten Hag still isn't what's right for Man United. He has to go. Oh, my God. Okay, must be a troll. And our pre-season was bad, says David Campbell. Our pre-season was a waste of time, mate. And I said it at the time, and many of you did, and well done. Our pre-season was an absolute waste of time. Most of it was beyond everybody's control, but the only thing that was positive about the pre-season was going to America, which is fantastic. seeing the great stadium, seeing the support. But it's a PR trip. It's not pre-season. It's PR. None of our signings were there, were they? Not one of our signings was there. Oh, Yoro was there and got injured, actually. I tell a lie. We had a lot of players from the Euros who weren't there. It's not pre-season. I mean, I would describe Man United's pre-season, and let me just be a bit blunt here. It's like preparing for a Formula One race in a go-kart. Like, this is the track. This is the track, right? Go around and practice it. Okay, now the season started. Do it in a car that's 100 times faster. I mean, it's just you prep. Who are you prepping? What are you prepping? Like, there was virtually no players are going to play from pre-season in the actual season. So it's just PR. But it was like it for a lot of clubs. The Duke says, I would rather win with purpose and a structure than win games half-arsed and the team players don't develop. Do you think we could get Zubimendi, says the Duke? Zubimendi's an interesting one, isn't it? Because he just seems to have this loyalty to Sociedad, which you can't knock, really. Anyway, look, we're a news show. I want to talk about this Ten Hag exit clause, right? Massive. Absolutely massive. Erik Ten Hag signed a new contract with Ineos literally weeks ago, really. Months, maybe, weeks, certainly. It wasn't that long ago. It was at the start, sort of middle of June, wasn't it? End of June? I can't remember when the actual contract got signed. I know they announced he was staying at the start of June, but there wasn't a new contract straight away. So the new contract has been signed. Effectively, it's 2 years. It's this season and next season. Now, he was on £9 million a year. The talk at the time was that this was a £27 million contract. It wasn't a 3-year deal. 3 times 9 is 27. So God knows why £27 million was mentioned, because it's not a 3-year deal. Is he on more money now? Has he had a pay increase? I don't know. I'm just going to work on old figures, but £27 million was mentioned, which would be about £13 million a year. If you sack Erik Ten Hag any time in the next few weeks or before Christmas or whatever, you've got to be talking easily double-figure payout. Easily. Could be as much as 20 million, I don't know, but easily 10 to 20 million pounds will get paid out to Erik Ten Hag if we sack him in the first 3 months of this contract. There it is. There is a cost to doing this. There is a big cost to doing this, and I think that whilst that cannot be the reason not to do it, it certainly will be a factor in why Ineos won't react quickly. And I was thinking about this morning when, just getting ready for the show, and I thought this is actually a really good way to just emphasise why Ineos won't want to do it. It's nothing to do with what I want. It's nothing to do with what you want. Scream Ten Hag out all you like. Scream Ten Hag in all you like. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about you don't own Man United. I don't own Man United. You might sack him last week, last month, 3 months ago. Some people wouldn't sack him at all. But trying to understand how these people who are running our football club, it's really important to understand, yes, they've spent £200 million on players that are very specific to Erik Ten Hag. Yes, they've given him a new contract. Yes, they spent a long time doing a strategic review to keep him. And all those things are a reason to give him time. But another reason is that there will be a massive cost to sacking him as well. It's not just bringing a new manager in, which will be another cost. It's not just bringing a new manager in who will look at that squad and say, I don't like him, and him, which will be another cost. It's not just the cost to your reputation of spending so long and then sticking with this guy and then sacking him straight away. There is also the cost of paying Ten Hag off as well. So I think the cold, harsh fact is that this is going to be a very interesting next few weeks, because I don't think there will be any parts of Sir Jim Radcliffe's strategy and structure that he's looking to make a change this season. Not just before Christmas, this season. I don't think it will be in their vocabulary at all. And I think there will be a lot of searching going on over the next 2 weeks, 2 months, to make sure that this changes very, very quickly. Because the external pressure, correct pressure from United fans is not going to stop if the results and performances don't improve. But they've absolutely put themselves in a situation where financially and reputationally, they aren't in a position where they can make big changes quickly. If you think about Mourinho and you think about Oli and how quickly they were sacked, they were in year 3. There was no new contracts handed out, I don't think, but they were in year 3 under the same ownership. This is a new ownership and it's year 1. And that makes a big difference. It's not even the contract, actually. It's more about Ineos have only been here really for a few months, and they've done this big review that they got a lot of criticism from. And the great thing about that review was that all the Ten Hag outers and all the Ten Hag inners united to say this is bloody ridiculous how long they took, and then they came to a decision. They've sort of got to stick with that situation for as long as they can, and there is a financial cost as well. Do you think media will be against us if we drop Marcus? That would mean we would only one English player in the starting squad, that is Kobe Mainoo, says Abhijit. Always comes back to Rashford. I think that we have a very biased British media, and we always have, and we've always spoken about this on this channel. We saw many a time there's been campaigns for Maguire, Dean Henderson, and there will be for Rashford as well if he gets dropped, especially if it's for someone like Garnacho or Ahmad. They will want Rashford in that team. There'll be, that won't stop. It'll be every question in every press conference. I mean, we had a question about Harry Maguire in the last press conference. The British media even get obsessed with Harry Maguire, so they'll definitely get obsessed with Marcus Rashford. But I don't think with Rashford, for me, it's about dropping him and never playing him again anyway. I mean, that's not the solution. It's about finding what he is. Now, is he the starter that scores us 30 goals, or is he the bench player that comes on and has an impact? I don't know what Rashford's role is at the moment, but there is a role for Rashford. We just need to figure out what that one is. We'll be okay, says Antony Murray. Southampton and Barnsley next. We should be expecting a really good performance and, most importantly, control. I'm tired of the basketball game, says Hader. I wouldn't Hader go that far to start expecting control and dominance and big wins. I think, as I said last night, I'd take a scrappy 1-0 against Southampton. I think it's the points that matters, really, in that sense. Man United are not signing the right players, says HQ. We should have signed Osimhen. I don't know about that. I like Osimhen, but why has no one else gone near him, really? I know Chelsea took a look at him, but timing... I think Osimhen was a little bit like Pochettino in the sense that timing was obviously an issue there as well. I think there was a time when Osimhen would have served a really good purpose for Manchester United, but obviously there is also a point to be made around if we tried to buy Osimhen when we bought Rasmus, then it would have cost a lot more money than it's costing Galatasaray to take him on loan. And now that Osimhen's available cheap, we've got Xerxes and Rasmus, and we haven't got the money to do that. So I just don't think it. I don't think it was the right time. New managers has proven not to work. It's a Rolling Stone, says the Duke. And Mark, under 18 beat Liverpool and City, and they got 6 points in first 2 matches. Should we promote the full team to play against Southampton, says Kelka. And better to get young players who will play together for years, says Balvinda. And Rashford is an impact sub at best now, needs to drop down a level, says Info. And Baldwin says, what does a player's nationality have to do with anything? They're good or not? Yeah, well, you make a good point, but it does in this country for some reason. Anyway, I want to bring this in. Okay, this is give Beth the credit for this because she dropped it into our group chat this morning, and it's not her. She screenshotted it from somewhere, but it's from the Times. It's from the Times in the UK, apparently. So, goal difference in the past 57 matches, all competitions. Now, considering we won the FA Cup, that makes it a little bit worse because that means there's a few cup games in here, which we won. Man City have a goal difference of 93. Liverpool have a goal difference of 79, Arsenal have a goal difference of 78, and Man United have a goal difference of -1 in the last 57 matches. Now, look, 93, 79, 78 for Arsenal, Liverpool and Man City, and -1 for Man United. That just, if you're trying to make a point, take the extremes as long as the point is still true. And that point is still true. I imagine teams like teams like Aston Villa and Spurs are probably plus 50 or 60 or 40. It matters not. That is shocking for Manchester United. To be -1 goal difference in the last 57 matches is absolutely shocking when teams that are doing well are plus 70, 80, 90. So why is that? What is going on with Manchester United that we've got a -1 goal difference in the last 57 games? Obviously, I've already said I'm closing the door on last season. The FA Cup, I'll take that and close the door. Because that, for me, was just to be able to take that and close the door on an absolute shit season, I'll take that. We won the FA Cup. And that is more important than a goal difference chart. Also, in the first 3 games of this season, we're second in the league for XG, which is goals expected or whatever. So I could say, in response to that very negative point, holding up an FA Cup and having second in the league for XG this season shows that somehow we've managed to win a trophy playing like that, and we should have scored a lot more goals this season. So they're the positives. And they're important positives. But reality is that stinks. That absolutely stinks. -1 in your last 57 games is horrific. And that should be on the wall at Carrington. It should be in Sir Jim Radcliffe's office. It should be in Ten Hag's office, because it's absolutely unacceptable. And I would say if we can win an FA Cup with that sort of goal difference, imagine what we can do in the league if we actually start to just turn this around a little bit. Because I'm not saying we need plus 90 like Man City, but even a 40-goal swing puts us on plus 40. I think there are issues here that are very obvious to anybody who watches Man United. Marcus Rashford's dry up on the left-hand side, that's probably 20, 30 goals there. So that's a big hole that's just disappeared in the last probably 70 games. I mean, for me, Rashford stopped playing well after the Carabao Cup final against Newcastle. So that's 18 months ago. So there's a lot of goals there that you would expect from Marcus Rashford, that he would expect for himself, that Ten Hag would expect. So Rashford would be a big loss in that, but not by any means is this on Marcus Rashford. I'm actually bigging him up, saying that I would expect 20 to 30 goals out of Marcus Rashford to be on there. So that's one thing, but you can't individualise it. The other thing is the lack of service into the striker, which, funnily enough, we've seen in the first 3 games of this season, but we didn't see last year, and we know those stats were there, that Rasmus was like 52nd in the Premier League for, shots on goal. So that is a factor, of course. If you don't create chances, you don't score goals. And I'd say the third one is, in the final third, we're so reckless. We're reckless in the final third. We'll shoot from 40 yards. So you're not going to score goals if one of your biggest goal outlets stops scoring, Rashford, that you don't create many chances for your striker, and when you do get in the final third, you're reckless. You won't score goals. So this, I think, is a big reason why Ruud van Nistelrooy has been brought in. And actually, for all the negativity, I really would look at I would close the door on last season. There's so much that went wrong last season, and there's so much change that's gone on this season and this summer transfer window. I'm looking at the first 3 games of the season, and +2 against Fulham should have been a +4. -1 against Brighton should have been at least a draw. And then Liverpool at the weekend, look, that's Liverpool at the weekend. I can't argue with that. So what are we on at the moment? -2. We can't be in that position this year. I would even say by Christmas we can't be in a minus position. We've got to start pumping teams. We never pump teams. We've not pumped. I can't remember the last time we pumped a team. We just, the reason our goal difference is so bad is because we just don't pump teams. And we've got to start doing that. The goalkeeper's a joke as well, says Ben. Defensively, we had a load of injuries, you're right. The midfield is wide open. The system, there is a multitude of reasons as to why our goal difference is so bad. Because even when we beat teams, we beat them by 1 goal. The reason your goal difference is good is because you've got to have the ability to put people to the sword. And as we know, the Man Cities, the Arsenals, the Liverpools, 2 or 3 times a month, they're beating a team by 3 or 4 goals. And that helps your goal difference. Man United don't do that 2 or 3 times a season. When was the last time we beat somebody 3-0? Was it Everton? I seem to remember we beat Everton. They're not memorable. They're not memorable. And, you know, a lot of that comes down to the bench as well. A lot of that comes down to the squad. I think sometimes you're in control of a game and then you make a couple of subs because you have to and you lose control of the game. I think about Aston Villa away when we were 2-0 up. 70th minute, we make changes. We barely get a draw out of the game. So game management, tactics, squad, individuals, defending, you know, injuries. There's so many reasons. But Gaber says excuses. They're not excuses though, are they? They're reasons. They're not excuses. They're reasons. We're talking about reasons. You need to grow up. If somebody presents you at work with a set of facts as to why you're failing, are you going to produce excuses or are you going to produce reasons? We're producing reasons. I think that those reasons cannot be reasons this season. And I think Ruud van Nistelrooy is there to help us score goals. We've got a new set piece coach. We're terrible at scoring goals from set pieces, but we're also rubbish at conceding goals from set pieces. We've got a new ownership. We've got a new structure. We've got new players. I think it's appalling to have a -1 goal difference in the last 57 games. But I would start from the last 3 and look at, and I would be keeping an eye on this, because if we see themes from last season, then you've really got to look at the reason for that. I think there's enough reasons for this not to happen this season, but I'd certainly be monitoring it, because in the first 3 games of the season, we didn't score enough goals against Fulham. We lost to Brighton where we should have at least drew. And against Liverpool, I felt that could have been 5 or 6. Now, is that because it's Liverpool and they're one of those top 3 sides that are just brilliant? I think the next few games against Southampton and Palace and Spurs at home, you got to look to be winning some of these games by a couple of goals, 2 or 3 goals, and that will help our goal difference, of course. Form is temporary, class is permanent, and Rashford isn't class. He was a flash in the pan, says Anders. And thoughts on Angel Gomez being called up to England, says Duncan. Seems like the kind of player we could do with now. I'm looking forward to watching him, Dean. I was very surprised by it, but I'm looking forward to watching it. Where do you see United after 15 games with Rasmus, says Akil. I think this Premier League is unforgiving, Akil. I hope we'll be in a better position, but I'm not going to guarantee it. I mean, we're not Man City. I think Man City are one of the only teams in the Premier League that can look at their next 15 games and expect to win 12 of them. I look at Palace away and I worry. I look at Spurs at home and I worry. And I look at Villa away and I really worry. So I can't predict where we're going to be, but we've got to start winning games. Otherwise, this pressure, quite rightly, will not go away. Thanks everybody for watching. I've got a really interesting video I'm working on at the moment, actually. I'm just trying to get the components in place to make it work, because if it does work, I think it's something we can really utilize that would be fantastic for the community. So hopefully we'll have that up and running for you in the next sort of 24 hours, maybe even this afternoon. But I'll be on the 8 o'clock show tonight. Kev's got the week off. So Thursday night with Goldbridge tonight. Make sure you smash a like and subscribe. And I'll speak to you all in a bit. Take care. Thanks very much for watching. Another fantastic show. Really enjoying the conversations. I hope you have a great day and do stay safe.